Hello. My name is Jess, and this is Patient POV. And today we're going to hear from Amanda, and I'm super excited for you to hear from her. She is in college, just like I am, and she has a service dog, just like I do. And oh, speaking of which, if you're watching on the video here, she just popped her head around the corner and made a little introduction. That's fun. So if you are watching on the video, please excuse my hair. I took a shower last night, put it on the top of my head in the little pineapple thing, and it's just settling down from all that. So thank you for excusing it. So, housekeeping things, as always, please feel free to like, subscribe. There's also going to be, like there is on every episode, there's going to be a question at the end. So feel free to answer the question so I can kind of see your answers. And yeah, and follow me on Instagram. And you can find me on Instagram at Jess_and_Elda, which is ELDA. So this past week, we did a challenge where we did at least 10 minutes every single day outside, hopefully in sunshine, preferably at the beginning of the day. But if you were able to get out at any point during the day and do it, that is amazing, regardless of the weather. So I personally managed to get 6 out of the 7 days. That one last day that I didn't get, I was inside baking all day. I was running to the grocery store and then coming back. And my mom's birthday is actually today, if you're listening on Sunday. And so it was Saturday that I didn't get out. But I'm going to put a poll up on my Instagram and see how everyone did. I'm super excited to see what you guys were able to do. And if you liked the challenge, please give me some feedback and let me know. This week, my challenge for everyone is to spend at least 10 minutes every day. I feel like 10 minutes is like a really manageable time frame. Like it's not too short, like 5 minutes, but it's like not too long that you feel like you can't commit to it. So we're going to keep with 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And I encourage you to do a hobby that doesn't include technology. So examples could be you could read a book for 10 minutes every day, or you could crochet or find a new hobby. I personally say crochet because I just started a new project. I've already got almost the whole head done of this cute little dinosaur. I'll share the pattern and I'll show you when I fully finish it. But yeah, I look forward for you to do that. I will post some more examples on things that you could do on my Instagram. But yeah, I really encourage you to take the time and kind of separate your brain away from technology. Yeah, that's my challenge for you guys today or this week. Okay, wonderful. If you guys have any comments, questions, anything like that, please feel free to reach out. Also, check out patientpov.ca, and I've made a website that includes podcast episodes, updates, the blog, and some freebies are in there. You just have to subscribe to the email list, and then you get all the freebies that I offer. And thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys all have a great week ahead.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Do you want to just jump right in and give us an introduction on who you are and kind of your health journey background?
Absolutely. So my name is Amanda Lohman. I have been diagnosed with POTS, hypermobile EDS, let's see, tons of other things, I guess, migraines and fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, Wiedemann syndrome. I've got a long laundry list of diseases, but I'm sure most of the chronic illness community can relate.
Mhm.
And so I kind of started my chronic illness journey, I guess, of diagnosis about when I was in seventh grade. And I've been dealing with progressing symptoms since then.
Lovely, yeah. I say lovely as a sarcastic. That's
Of
always
course.
the way, isn't it? Yes. And so when you say you deal with symptoms, I know you're seeing this laundry list of chronic illnesses. And so, what would you say some of the more challenging things that you deal with on a daily basis are?
I think one of the most debilitating things for me is brain fog.
Mm.
I am currently attending college. I'm a major in biology with a minor in chemistry. And so being in a STEM field requires a lot of brain power and a lot of studying. And I think one of my biggest challenges for at the moment is the brain fog that comes with that and just the memory loss that I'm struggling with.
And as you were saying in college, right? And so how have you figured out any tips and tricks in terms of how to manage that?
So something I found to be really beneficial is printing out notes or PowerPoints or handouts that are provided online by the professors. Something I struggle with the most is staying focused when I'm in class while I'm taking notes and also trying to comprehend the lecture at hand. So printing out those notes beforehand and then keeping them in a binder and then highlighting the notes as the professor is going over the material has really helped me stay on track and stay focused.
Yeah, amazing. I'm asking a little bit selfishly here as I'm also in university, and so I was like, how do you manage?
Yeah, of course.
So you were saying you struggle a lot with the brain fog. Are there any other symptoms in particular that you struggle with on a day-to-day basis?
Besides the brain fog, I think pain is probably one of my most debilitating symptoms as well.
Hmm.
Um, Especially being in university and having to sit in lecture halls for hours at a time, and then trying to manage to have a social life and go out and participate in activities can be really painful and difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And so, have you found any coping strategies for pain?
So long story short, I was attending a brand new physical therapy program specifically curated for people with hypermobile Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And I've been doing that for about 5 months, and ended up they told me this is going to help your pain, this is going to strengthen you, like this is going to be really great. And we're not going to increase your meds or anything. We're not going to play around with it. We're just going to trust the process. So that's what I've been doing, and it has been extremely painful and extremely hard. And I finally was told at my last therapy appointment that, oh, no, this isn't going to help your pain. This is just to stabilize you. So, what I thought I was doing to help my pain, I guess, is not what was happening, and I was a little maybe blindsided by that.
Mm.
So, as of now, lots of ice packs and heating pads,
Right.
um, and lidocaine patches.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's totally fair. And so you also have a service dog in the background, eh? And wonderful. What's his name?
His name is Charlie.
Charlie. Oh, yes, of course, because where can people find you on Instagram?
You can find me at charlie.the.service.doodle.
Love that. And so I'm assuming it's a doodle.
Oh, yes, he is a golden doodle.
A golden doodle. Wonderful. And so how does Charlie help you?
So I specifically got Charlie to be a medical cardiac alert dog. At the time, I was dealing with super debilitating POTS symptoms. And my POTS definitely still affects me, but is not nearly as bad as it was prior to getting Charlie. He has definitely saved my life for sure. But I think the biggest thing that he has done is just kept me out of the hospital and kept me from hurting myself. I would pass out 3 to 5 times a day, and it was extremely hard to just cope and manage my regular life, especially with my studies. And so getting Charlie has just given me a new sense of self and independence. So
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, for sure. That's great. And so, what would like a day in the life look like for you?
a day in the life. Well, as I am attending university, lots of school. I spend most of my time in classes. So getting up, going to class, making sure that I train with Charlie every day as best as I can, to keep that fresh in his mind. And then a lot of studying, a lot of trying to rest, but not being super productive with that. But I feel like everyone can kind of relate to that, especially if you're dealing with chronic illness, whether in university or not. Um, and then I try to do some extracurricular activities. I am a part of a sorority that I am pretty involved with. So I'm very excited that I'm actually the new diversity, inclusion, and belonging chair. And it has been a great way for me to advocate and bring my disability advocacy into that field as well.
That's so awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, when we talk about, I know you were mentioning grade 7 is kind of when you started your diagnosis journey. So, what was that like, getting those diagnoses?
Um, you know, I honestly didn't know what was going on. And so I didn't really know which doctors to look for.
Mm.
And so a lot of it was me because I grew up in Atlanta. And so I had a lot of resources around me. It was a great place to grow up in regards of medical care. And so there was actually a dysautonomia specialist that had a practice 5 minutes away from where I lived. And he was the only one in Georgia. that's a pediatric dysautonomia specialist. But of course, I didn't know what dysautonomia was. And with POTS being one of my worst symptoms in 7th grade that developed, that was what I was trying to figure out. Why am I passing out all of the time? And so we kind of thought I was having seizures because I would have pseudo seizures before I would faint. And so I went to a couple of neurologists, just kind of looking for answers. Am I having seizures? Let's get some EEGs done. And they were like, yeah, it doesn't look like you're having seizures. You're okay. Maybe go to a cardiologist. And so out of just luck, we ended up finding Dr. Sachs, whom I love dearly and will promote his name always. He's an incredible pediatric dysautonomia specialist, and he did an orthostatic blood pressure test immediately on my first visit, and he said, you don't quite meet the criteria for POTS, but you do have vasovagal syncope, and we're just going to keep monitoring this. And then by my next visit, I had gotten worse and got an official diagnosis.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. And so the time between starting to look for answers and then actually getting your diagnosis for POTS wasn't a huge wait time, or how long was that?
It wasn't. So I didn't find him in 7th grade. I ended up finding him in 2018. So let's see, I guess I was in 7th grade in 2016.
So
No,
like 2 or 3 years?
it was about 2 years from the time that I ended up starting my search for a doctor and then finding him and getting that diagnosis. Yes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so that's a relief though that you didn't have. Did you ever feel like you were in periods of at any point in your life where you were like trying to find answers for something, but then never not having a hard time finding answers?
Um, Definitely with my EDS journey, I
Mm.
would say that's been a long one, and that was probably the most difficult to get an actual diagnosis. Most of the doctors that I saw, I was seeing an orthopedic surgeon because I didn't really know who to go to. And with my mom seeing the same guy who actually she just got a diagnosis of hypermobile EDS too.
Mm.
Um, and so, but she just got that from a different doctor. So I was seeing that guy. And he did a bunch of tests. I mean, I give him full credit for really trying as much as he knew how to. He did several MRIs and x rays, and it wasn't showing anything. And so he kind of just diagnosed me with arthritis and just said it was joint pain, and that I was having muscle pain and it might be fibromyalgia. Um, and so, which I do have an official diagnosis of now as well. Um, but finding a doctor that knew what EDS was extremely difficult. And so, actually, what's interesting is my dysautonomia specialist, he knew all about it. He loves to deep dive into things that aren't tackled by the majority of the medical community, which I really appreciate and we need a lot more of.
Mhm.
And so I started mentioning to him all of these other things that I had going on. And he was like, let's go ahead and do the EDS test, which I can't think of the name of right now. It'll come to
Is it
me.
is it the point system?
It is, yeah, the
There's
1
like
through 9, I think.
yeah, yeah, and then based on how many points you have, like you do a series of tests of like, can you do this? Can you do that? And then
Mhm.
based on how many points you get, that's how you figure out if you have EDS or not. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, that
Okay,
is.
perfect.
Um, so he went ahead and did that test. And at the time, I didn't meet enough of the criteria. I think I was like 1 point shy of meeting the criteria for EDS. Um, so, of course, with time, my EDS got worse. And so I ended up meeting all of the criteria for that diagnosis. Um, but from moving from Atlanta and then coming into Alabama and then finding a doctor at UAB, I actually now have an EDS specialist.
Oh,
Um, so,
that's pretty cool though. And so have you found any resource? I mean, I guess you're doing the physiotherapy program through you found that physiotherapy program through them or?
yes, they are sort of related that kind of work together. They're trying to come up with an EDS protocol that they're able to mass produce and hand out to individuals that are also struggling with EDS.
Mm.
And I think they have a really good idea going. I think there might have just been a misunderstanding and miscommunication between the specialist himself and the physical therapist. And I don't really blame any of them. I think they're all doing incredible work and they're trying their hardest to help our community. So I appreciate them for that. But yes, he does work with them, but they are separate entities.
Gotcha. Okay. And then have you, I guess through more so the specialist, then have you found any tips or tricks on how to manage and support your EDS?
Well, I did hear about this incredible invention called the body braid, which is extremely expensive, at least for me. But I am looking into it. I've tried bracing before, and I haven't really had many issues with subluxations and dislocations until recently.
Mm.
And so I've done light bracing, like on my knees, but this body braid is a very expandable um, type contraption. I don't know. It looks a little interesting, but it's like a
Mhm.
little braid and it goes all the way across your body and supports those areas that need a little more stability. So,
Very cool. Yeah, that's really cool. But it is unfortunate that like it's the financial barrier that's stopping you from being able to receive something.
yeah.
Um, and so then my next question kind of is more so about your schooling and dealing with a chronic illness. So since grade 7, you've been dealing with chronic illnesses. So how have you managed being a student and also having chronic illnesses? Like a lot of milestones happen during that time. So how did you cope?
Yeah. I think honestly, you just kind of have to. I
Mm.
hate that. But I feel like we live in a society where it's just you have to keep going. You're expected to push through despite your limitations. And I was at a point to where like I'm really well off in comparison to a lot of people, even with the same diagnosis. And so I'm extremely privileged and lucky in that aspect. And I want to make that very clear. Um, but I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to be able to push through. Not that my disabilities aren't limiting, that's not a word. Not limiting, but also just something that I've been expected to do by society. And so I think
We got a sneak preview of Charlie there.
he did. He's soaring through the sky. Yes. But yeah, just having to persevere and keep going. I think something that has motivated me the most is just the online chronic illness community. I feel like they've been such a huge support system for me. And then also, I feel like I've been able to help a lot of other people as well by spreading awareness and talking with people and communicating that, we're not alone. And there are people out there that understand what you're going through to an extent and have resources that you can use. And so I think that motivator has helped me continue my journey. I didn't want to start advocating online at first. I think, with school, I mean, I was extremely busy and just trying to manage all of my conditions and all of this new information like, hey, you have POTS and we don't have a cure for it. And this is going to be the rest of your life. It's a hard diagnosis and it's hard to hear. And so just, coping with that and then also realizing that, hey, I'm not alone in this. There's other people in the same office that are going through what I'm going through and they're doing it. And so I can do this too.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's kind of what motivated you to start the online or like your service dog page in particular?
Yes, I think just all of that built up over the years and I thought, I I feel like people need to know that they're not alone because that was the main thing for me. I felt so alone and I didn't realize that other people were struggling. And I thought POTS was this super rare thing. And I mean, at the time, it was very rarely diagnosed. And so they didn't have a lot of information about it. And as years keep going on, we are finding out that a lot of people have POTS.
Mhm.
And so the community continues to grow, which saddens me, but also gives me hope that more research is going to be done and more funding is going to be given. Um, but just, taking that and then getting Charlie, and, I was talking to my doctor, Dr. Sachs, actually, about this. And he was like, yeah, I think you should. And so that kind of inspired me to start advocating.
Wonderful. Yeah. And as you were saying, we are seeing a lot of POTS diagnosis getting diagnosed because of long COVID in particular is from what I'm understanding is causing it a lot. But now you had POTS, you said grade 7, you were saying 2016 or something like that. So it definitely wasn't COVID. Do they know what might have caused your POTS to flare or
We don't
start?
really know. We don't really. Now that I think about it, I
Mhm.
started having symptoms. I mean, when I was in like third grade, I was diagnosed with asthma because I kept, I used to be very athletic. I was doing competitive dance and gymnastics and track, tons of stuff. And then I just remember one day it just got really hard to start, keep doing all of that. And I would get out of breath super quickly, and I thought I was having asthma attacks. And so I ended up getting diagnosed with asthma, but it wasn't asthma, and that didn't really click in my brain until fifth grade. I passed out for the first time. Didn't know what caused
Mm.
it. And they said it was a migraine, but which it wasn't. I do have migraines, but I definitely know the difference between
Yeah.
um, those symptoms. So, but I think all of it is just compounded. And then, seventh grade, when I really started developing those symptoms and then ultimately getting my diagnosis, we don't really know. We can't really trace it back to a specific instance that could have caused it.
Yeah, no, it's whenever there's somebody I'm speaking to with POTS, I'm always interested to see if they do know what caused it because I think a lot of people think POTS only comes from COVID.
Mhm.
And I've even heard like a doctor say that because like I personally have POTS as well. And I've had a doctor say, "Oh, well, you must have had COVID before COVID even came to Canada because you have POTS." And I was like, I don't think that's how that works. Like, I think you can get it from other things. And so that's why I'm always interested in asking. And so my next question for you is are there any either resources or organizations that you really turn to find your information from or resources in terms of products you use on a daily basis that really help mitigate your symptoms? Anything like that?
I honestly have a lot.
Please.
And and I would love to share them because I think it's really important that everyone has access to these resources. But I think Dysautonomia International has been a huge resource. Just from the advocacy they do, the funding that they push for, and then on their in their bio and their Instagram, they have a link tree and it has tons of links to POTS resources and dysautonomia specialists around the world. And I think that has been a huge help, just finding doctors and helping other individuals diagnose, find doctors. Um,
Sure.
and then also, let's see, Vitasium. And I do want to preface this with I am sponsored by Vitasium.
Love that.
But thank you. But before I became a brand ambassador for the company, I was using their salt capsules. That was the first treatment that I tried, actually. And it was recommended to me by my doctor. And so I started using those in, I guess it was ninth grade when I was formally diagnosed. And I continued to use those capsules. And I mean, they completely changed my life. So they really decreased the amount of times I was passing out and helped me mitigate my symptoms much better than just increasing my hydration and try not to stand up as fast as I normally would. Um,
Yeah, for sure. And so those salt capsules, they're just like you take it like a normal pill sort of thing. And you don't is it you don't I haven't personally tried them yet. So you don't really taste them or anything like that?
No, they have a bunch of different kinds,
Oh,
but I use their electrolyte capsules. So they're just like any type of capsule medication. It's got powder inside. It's potassium and sodium. So it's not like a table salt type thing, but it is that chemical compound. And you just take the pills. You can take up to 10 a day, and they're filled with electrolytes as well. And I mean, they're incredible. Um,
yeah.
so
Wonderful. Yeah. So for both Dysautonomia International and then Vitassium, I'll link in the bio the two links in case anybody's listening and wants to check those out as well. Wonderful. And then my last question for you today is I'm just wondering if you have any words of encouragement or words of advice to anybody who's either starting their diagnosis journey with any chronic illness or maybe POTS or EDS in particular, either words of encouragement or words of advice for anyone starting in the middle, in a flare, anything like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just knowing you're not alone. There are so many individuals that are also struggling with the same diagnosis, and there's a huge scale of how severe those might be or might not, but the diagnosis is the same. And so, reaching out to those people, um, finding medical professionals, if you need help with that, please, please, please contact me. My DMs are always open at charlie.the.service.doodle. And find a community of individuals that are also going through what you're going through, because mental health can take a huge toll in regards to those diagnoses. And it can be really scary and difficult trying to navigate those new symptoms. But there's so many resources out there. You just have to know where to look. And if you need help being pointed in the right direction, I'm always here for you guys.
Amazing. Yeah. And so your Instagram will also be included in the description notes of the podcast episode. So if anybody who's looking to connect with you, they can go there as well. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me. And I do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.